My name is Cynthia Fernandes. I'm from Pilgrim's Way. I am happy to be hosting this incredible book, Kindness, a guide for humans based on Enneagram by Frank DeLuca, PhD. I actually know Frank when he was living in Carmel, and he had an office just around the corner. One of my favorite encounters was when Frank came in the store, and we could actually, have time to chat and what's new. And he was so interesting and such a articulate and very grace-filled human who clearly came from his heart in all that he did, and made me laugh on a regular basis. So Frank, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. I was thinking today that, you and Paul gave me a place to land when I first decided to open a therapy practice in Carmel. And I also started doing classes through Center for at the time that Leslie Bruin and Jen Weathers had created to help professionals have a platform to talk about their service. And I needed a new place, and you offered Pilgrim's Way. And I started those classes. We've moved bookshelves away and the book tables and set up chairs. And I'm always indebted to you and Paul for helping me, because that launched a lot for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. That was a very enjoyable time, and there were many happy people who attended.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I was one of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I really love that you described this book as a way to see people that gives you clarity and really helps be a template using the Enneagram. I think it's beautiful, first off. Anybody who's seen it, color photos and really fun, lighthearted images. I think that it's clear that you really intended on keeping things brief and simple and accessible. And I'm actually really intrigued that the title is Kindness. I wonder if you would be willing to explain or define the word kindness as you see it in this regard.
Yeah, I had to think about that because I didn't start out to write a book about kindness. I started out to write a book about the Enneagram. And through time and through the process, I kind of had to ask, well, why bother with the Enneagram? And what is this about? What is self-awareness work about? And through a number of different avenues, it came down to kindness. It was actually Ken enjoying the design one time. He didn't do this cover design, but an earlier one. And I had the title originally of the long one. I started with my field guide years ago, A Field Guide to Humans, an introduction to the Enneagram. Then I had the title of A Field Guide for Humans, Cultivating Kindness Through the Enneagram. And I came up one day to look at what Ken was doing with the cover, and he kept pushing me with graphics to say less. So he had put the title Kindness. And I looked and I said, wait a minute, you changed the title of my book. How dare you? I didn't say how dare you, but I realized he got it right. And he kind of outed me because I was saying, oh, I'm an Enneagram teacher, and he said, no, your book is about kindness. So that's how the title came to be. And I'm very grateful because it has really communicated to people. So the question you're asking is, what is kindness? I'm going to answer it. I do have a definition that I put in the book, but I'd like to start actually with an opening poem that's called Kindness.
Beautiful.
And I can let people know up front that if you get this book, you don't have to read the whole thing. Some people do. A lot of people don't, actually. They love it, but they haven't finished it. But I hopefully was able to design and write it in such a way that no matter what page you turn to, you're going to get a message about kindness. So if you turn off after this poem, you've gotten the whole thing. So I'm going to read the opening poem in the book. It's called Kindness. I did not know the rude cashier's son was expelled from school yesterday. I did not know the careless driver who pulled out in front of me just got word that his wife was in the ICU. I did not know my sarcastic remark had hurt my friend so deeply. I do know that I easily forget how tender we all are. I do know that erring on the side of kindness never hurt a soul.
That is a beautiful poem.
Thank you. I could just stop there when I talk about kindness, but I think the poem is saying we don't know. At any moment that we're encountering someone, whether it's an accidental situation or someone in our life that we live with every day, it doesn't hurt to err on the side of kindness, meaning we don't really know what's going on for that person in that moment in time. We all are struggling in some way, and I forget that.
There's always a bigger picture to whatever situation we're aware of.
I think that's it. There's always something more, and I get caught up in the small picture of what I want from that person. I talked to someone yesterday on the phone who is a producer and has to deal with all kinds of people all the time. And she said, I don't know about kindness. I just want you to tell me how I can control people better. And it was very honest and very truthful for all of us, really.
Yeah.
Because I've had someone say very similar to me one time, oh, you're a therapist. I don't need therapy. I just need you to tell me how I can get people to act the way I want them to,
There you go.
So the Enneagram is a really good tool for that, because you just begin to understand that people act the way they do. And you understand why they might act the way they do. And even if you don't know the whole story, you just start with your heart and say, I don't know, but they're a human and I'm a human. Let's start from there.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to take a quick moment and invite people on the call right now. If you have a burning question for Frank, I can't guarantee that we can address each of them, but if you do, please add it to the chat to me. And if time allows, we'd be happy to touch on those. And if we run out of time, I'm hoping that perhaps Frank would be willing to address your question directly. So yeah, that's something that we have available, but we're going to use the chat function for that.
Good.
And yeah, that sounds good. That sounds really good. So Frank, you were talking about the Enneagram and what a great platform that is to work from as a way to see the bigger picture for whoever, we're encountering in relationship or shopping at the mall, etc. How did you actually get started using the Enneagram?
Over 30 years ago, when I decided to go back to graduate school, first I got a master's in counseling, then a doctorate in East-West psychology. And it was at that time that someone handed me a book by Helen Palmer called The Enneagram. It's one of the classic books. It's still a classic today, one of the best there is. Thick, and for some people a little too much, but I liked it. But it wasn't the book that did it, really. At the same time, I met people I knew professionally, and they had just finished being in a teacher training with Helen Palmer. So they were pretty versed in the Enneagram, and truthfully, it was through those relationships that I began to understand the Enneagram. I don't think you can really get the Enneagram from a book. You can get information that way, but you're not going to get the knowledge and the nuance and how to live in it. So through those years, I began to, as I was in school, and I also had clients, consulting clients, even some counseling clients at the time. And I would go to my friend and say, this is what I'm experiencing. What do you think? And I would learn to look at things through the Enneagram that way. So it was a very hands-on experience. And then through the years, I just kept reading, studying, doing workshops. But I would say I didn't really learn more in depth what the Enneagram was or how to use it until I began to teach. And that was in 2007, I think. And it was through listening to people's stories, because that's the method I had learned, how you learn the Enneagram, and I used. So I would say, this is what I understand about type 7s. Can you tell me about that? And then people would give me information without knowing the Enneagram or their type. But all this beautiful information came. So that's how I really learned. And then through time, it's hard not to have it be one of those filters you're using when you're with people.
Right.
So I didn't always introduce people to the Enneagram. I didn't always know what their type was, but it just helps to understand you're picking up patterns from people, and it's a really useful tool for that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. You did answer my question, and I have perhaps an unfair question, and that is, what happens if an individual doesn't know their number, if they don't know how they fall into the Enneagram? I have noticed for myself, it's much easier to understand patterns in the other person, perhaps, easier than noticing them in myself. And if I'm using the work consciously, it would be helpful. I think this is why I want you to, speak on this. It'd be helpful if I knew what I'm up to as a number.
Yeah, it does matter. Although in this book, I didn't emphasize that part. I focused on others. It's kind of a trick, I have to admit. Okay. Because you're not really going to understand other people unless you take on the understanding of your own type and your own patterns, because you won't know that you're looking through a filter.
Right.
Everything you see is through that filter of your type. So you won't, if you don't know that, you're not going to get very far. At the same time, I de-emphasize working on immediately getting your type, because I've seen that be a trap for a lot of people. They'll take a test and it's 10 questions, or it's pretty simple, and they say, I know their type. Sometimes it really works. Tests, I find, are a good instrument, but they don't necessarily bring type. But I feel when you're really ready, you'll want to know your type, because my experience with people is that when you do discover your type, it usually is kind of like, wow, aha, the lights go on. But pretty quickly after that, it's like, oh no, really? That's me? And so there's kind of this both, this is wonderful, and then it's
not
like,
that.
oh God,
yeah.
No. And, I've had people say, oh no, I'm not any of those 9, I must be a 10. Because the Enneagram describes the shadow part, meaning what we can't see about ourselves. If we ask people in our life, they're seeing it very clearly, like you said.
Yeah.
But to see our own takes, I think, a bit of courage. And it also takes really having to develop some skill of self-observation. Yeah. And that could come if you've been in therapy. It could come from any spiritual practice. It could come by just growing up a bit and saying, oh, here I go again.
Right.
So there's that. There has to be one aspect where you step aside and begin to observe your personality rather than just be in these patterns without any thought. I will say more about that I spent years thinking if they only knew their type, it would be so much easier for me to relate to them. Meaning if only they were more self-aware, you would make my life easier. And I finally got to, that's not the thing.
Right.
If I really am going to be in my heart, I have to be with people as they are. I'm not very good at it most of the time, but I know that's the direction. Instead of trying to get them to wake up,
right,
I need to be aware of if there are certain people, I call it, they're above my spiritual pay grade. It's like I can't find the compassion, too much, too something. But even then I say, well, at least let me do no harm. At least let me be open to who this person is, and maybe walk away. Maybe I can't stay in a relationship. But, and partly I realized why I wrote this was I really, really, really do encourage people to wake up and be aware of themselves more. It just saves so much suffering and trouble in careers and relationships, because we fall over ourselves by not seeing the patterns that we're in and not knowing the effect that what we do has on other people and on ourselves. So I'm all for awakening And that's what I emphasize in the book, actually. In each section, I talk about, here's the type when they're kind of asleep, you might say, and here's when they wake up. This is what happens to them.
Right.
That's my favorite part. That's why I wrote this.
Well, it's beautifully illustrated and very artfully put together. I love the feeling I get when I'm looking through each of the types is like a lightheartedness, even though you're talking about things that clearly I can relate to, and sometimes I'm reminded of annoyances. You take such a lighthearted approach in describing and articulating them in a simple way.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, please.
I had to work on that. That's part of why this was a great thing to do. It was transformational for me. Because the Enneagram, as it's been taught traditionally, originally, really did focus on the elements of our personalities that are the less positive, you could say. There's a purpose for that. I mean, unless we see these things, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. But it's easy once you work with the Enneagram to only focus on that. And people will say, well, you know, I'm a 3, I just can't help it. And I'm just busy all the time. And I do care about people, how they see me. But it's so much about being able to watch yourself. And the lightheartedness comes to me from trying to give the sense that we're all in this conundrum, really. We're all characters in a play.
Yeah.
And the Enneagram helps me see that I'm just one of those characters in the play, and I don't have to take my personality as seriously. And through the years, somehow laughter has followed me all the way through my life as a what can I say, an indicator of truth. In my family, we had there was a lot of humor going through. Not all of it was kind, okay? But it was truthful. Teasing that siblings do or parents do, you know. But then when I began to do seminars years ago, I found that laughter was when people go, oh, of course, how ridiculous that I'm so focused this way or that. And in therapy, it was that way. So in fact, there's a friend who was a colleague for many, many years in the same therapy suite in San Francisco. And he would always hear laughter coming from my office. His clients would say, why are they laughing down here and we're not? And I didn't tell jokes in therapy, but it was these moments when someone would say, oh my God, look what I just did again. And we would kind of see it with good humor. And to me, that's the lightening up. And that's the part of the Enneagram that I really focus on. And so when I wrote the profiles, I wasn't going to skirt around the things that are challenging, but I contained it and said, let's just look at the whole picture. Can you still love somebody? And I think if I can find something quickly right here that I wrote, why the Enneagram, when you see people in their wholeness and not focus on just one of their actions or traits, you appreciate who they really are and understand why they act the way they do. Your perception changes. You see more. Your heart opens. You begin to appreciate that there is more to a person than what you see on the surface. Through the lens of the Enneagram, you see the beauty in people, their gifts, their good hearts. You also see how goodness and good intentions get derailed and why. When you lead from your heart, people feel it. They feel seen, not judged. They relax. As they relax, they reveal more of their true self. They lighten up. They laugh more. You both laugh more. You meet human to human in the most wonderful way. This is kindness. So that kindness is not a kind act, or it's not about being nice. It's about having a heart open to just take the full spectrum of somebody. Because part of why I was motivated to write this book is when I hear friends or people say, oh, he's such a control freak. Or, you know, she's always talking about her problems. Or they're always on the go and always off to the next thing. I don't understand why they can't just be settled. And I think, oh, if you only knew the Enneagram, because what I want to say is, wish you can see them in their wholeness and you can appreciate those qualities and get more skillful in how to interact with them. But basically, get the whole person and not just one trait and decide that's who they are.
Thank you for doing this work. That is a beautiful offering to our global community.
I hope so.
Is there something that you can share with us, perhaps on screen, that might be illustrative?
I thought
just happen to have something.
Yeah, because this book, as you said, I made it beautiful and graphic. You know, I couldn't use just words, and part of that was because you can't really transmit the Enneagram in words. And in the classes, when people learned, you were sitting in the presence of other people. You were feeling their energy. You were seeing their faces. Yeah. You were laughing together, you know. Yeah. So I always picture things in like cartoon fashion. So I knew I wanted to at least start with that. And I said, where am I going to find somebody to do illustrations of each type? Well, she lives 2 doors up the street. And that's how Jacksonville is, where I live. And Nancy Bartos, who did the illustrations, is a wonderful artist. I had seen her work starting a few years before. And I said, Nancy, I want to illustrate this book on the Enneagram, and I want your help. And she said, I don't know, do illustrations. I said, that's okay. I just know what I've seen of your work. I think you have the right quality, because she picked up on the humor, the lightness of people, kind of a smile. Yeah. So I'm going to put the screen up for just a second, and I mean, give me a second to get it going. Okay. So I'll get to this, but she did portraits for me, and these are based on people I know, students, you know, colleagues, all people, and then she took them and made them into not caricatures, but we don't want to reveal who these people are. So you'll see portraits, but the main thing she started with was the cartoon, I would call it, of each type. How do I capture in an image, in a little story? And so I'm going to show you just a couple. Then I'm going to go to the type 1 and say a little more. But this is one she did. This is for the type 4. Sometimes called tragic romantic, the individualist, and that was we kind of worked together to come up with this image. And the intention was that if you only had to look at the image, you would come away with something about this person. And you've got the sun on one corner, the cloud on the other, big umbrella, and it's raining in there. It's like she's living in her own world. That scarf, I happen to have noticed through the years, many 4s have scarves. That sounds like a stereotype. But she's an individual. She's obviously in her own self, and she's seeking something. And just seeking authentic connections. That was my way to see if I could distill down something essential about this type. And I'll point out that the word just is really important. We did that with each one because it's so off the cuff, matter of fact. Oh, don't worry about me. I'm just seeking authentic connections. Isn't everybody? And we say, no. So every type starts with the assumption that that's just what you do in life. Here's the type 6, just watching out. And we tried to capture the 2 types of 6, which are those who are called phobic or counterphobic, move towards danger, get scared around danger, move, you know, and move away. And so again, just watching out for things that could go wrong, watching out for dangers, watching out for people's hidden agendas, watching out for, as a lot of my fixed friends say, all those crazies out there. You just don't know what they're up to.
Would this also be a thrill seeker?
No, that would be the 7 generally, which just comes after this one. Then I'll show you one more, and this happened to be the first face that Nancy gave me when I said, here's a brief description in the field guide I used to have, but if you were to spot a 1 at a party, a type 1, they would be kind of giving someone a sour look if they were double dipping their guacamole the tip of the guacamole. So she showed me this face. Then we worked with the background on the left. And I thought she really hit it. I mean, I'm a type 1. It's not a very flattering image. I don't wear pearls, okay? But there's a kind of disapproving look. And the caption here is just getting it right. That's all ones are out to do. We just want to set the world right. We're going to fix you. Don't worry about it, you know?
Yeah.
And in this case, recycling trash only. And actually, Nancy came up with that. I don't know if she's ever fully identified herself. Towards the end, after working for 3 years, she said, I might be a 1. But she came up with this image because she knows that she gets really annoyed when people put, you know, paper that should go in the recycling in the trash. So I give you this also to give you a sense of what the layout is that you mentioned, because I wanted each page to be easy. I really worked with condensing. Part of that came out of Ken's design. Beautiful. Because we were working with design and he came up with that space on the right where it gives a brief description of the 1. It's like, I only have a paragraph. I only have that much space. Yes. So it forced me to do that. And we realized that the part of the design came out of wanting to be kind to the reader, wanting to not give people so much information, give them negative space around it, it's called, so they have room to breathe. And each page actually becomes like a meditation if you take it in. Some people have said they can't read it straight through. There's so much information in there. So each page is packed with things, but I give you a chance to breathe, you know, while you read it.
Yeah, and you know, the other really nice thing about the format of having so much white space and having whatever text is there to be very potent,
yes,
is that the reader is invited to read it again. And each time I've read it again, something else sort of pops out.
Yes. Thank you. That's what it's really designed to do, because I kept going through these over and over again. But, and also there's kind of like, I guess, what do you call that? Easter eggs, things that are hidden in there. This book is actually packed with theory, but I decided to take the route of showing rather than telling. So this one, for example, a gentleman named Lucas, as a 1, his core belief, if I were to distill it down, would be, what matters is that you are a good person. It's important to act properly and responsibly and to do things right. So in theory, that's giving you the core belief of the 1, but I don't talk about it that way. And I do narratives, and I can maybe read a little bit, but for example, this is a good one. This is not a type 1. As you saw in each section, I show you what it's like to live with or work with one of these people. And so this is a woman that I met at an Enneagram conference who's actually from Turkey. And she was willing to let me use her image. She's a type 7. I liked it because you get that brightness from her, ready to play. And so I didn't write this about her, but her description is, here's a 7 who's living with a 1. And she says, I had no idea there was a right way to wash dishes until I married Omer. How did I get through my first 34 years without knowing that you always wash glasses first and that you never let stainless steel pots dry on their own because they'll have spots? And I go on from there, and she says, you know, with a little therapy and a lot of talking, Omer and I have learned to give each other room to do some things our own ways, not necessarily the right way. Oh. And it closes with, I've come to appreciate his conscientiousness and how, and he now appreciates how I help him lighten up. We have learned to laugh more together, even when I load the dishwasher the wrong way. Now he just gives me a disapproving look, followed by a wink. So you could say he was on to himself. And then next, this is, I talk about when each type wakes up. And, you know, for the 1, they begin to recognize that not all life has to be about responsibility, and they can enjoy themselves more. And the waking up for a 1 is, what would I say, you know, they learn to see that life is perfect as it is, not as they think it should be, and so forth. And at best, their 1s are crusaders for what is right and good, and they encourage us to live with integrity and honor. So I really tried to focus on the gift of each type. And I began to see that, the gift is right next to the dicey part, you might say. The gift for ones is really having a sincere, deep passion for seeing that things are done right in life. And what happens, since they aren't done right in life, they end up being resentful and angry a lot of times. They don't start out as angry people, but that's their go-to emotion. And if you see people holistically, you can kind of go beyond the anger, hopefully, and say, what is it that's so important to you right now? And I think that really helps you with any type to get beyond what they're doing and say, what is it that really is mattering to you right now? And the value of knowing your type is that you're going to begin to understand what is driving this train. Why does that matter to you so much? Because I'm sure we've all said to somebody, why are you worried about that? Give it up. Well, it's not that easy when it's a bone you're chewing on. Yeah. And each type has their own bone, and it's hard to take it away from them. But beyond that is, I said, this wonderful gift. And my emphasis on this book is to see the gift, and you have to look through all the other stuff to get it. And second on that, and last, is that I think the Enneagram really only comes alive when you're in unity, when you see that each person's gift is needed at the table. In a company, we need each one, not necessarily a type of each one, we need the energy of each one of the types of the Enneagram. And then we have a whole picture. So that's a little touch. And I'll get to this one later. I'm going to take that off the screen right now. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That kind of gives a little taste test of the book if you don't already have it. Yeah. And I love the thoughtfulness that you went into when you put it together. And it so shows up when I'm holding it in my hands. Mm-hmm. I am wondering, when you were writing the book and doing all the many little things that you have to do to make selections, and as you were saying, cut things down and make them more potent and concise, choosing the words, the graphics, the formatting, what was your heart's desire for how it would be a benefit to the readers? Oh, I happen to write that. It's easier to since it's very condensed. I had to think about that. And this one, if you don't mind, it's easier for me to read this because it just summarizes it. Absolutely. I began Kindness, a Guide for Humans, more than 3 years ago. There were many stops and starts along the way. I thought writing about the Enneagram would be a fairly straightforward process since I had been studying and working with it for 30 years and teaching it for 12. I assumed I would write a book as an educator, a person with advanced degrees in psychology who knew things about people. But through a process of personal undoing, which writing a book can do to you, I discovered I was writing this book from my head. The book was asking me to write it from my heart. This revelation shocked me at first, but it didn't surprise me. I had always believed that if we could wake up to how tender we all are inside, we would tread more lightly. We would be kinder to ourselves and to one another. Years of studying, teaching, and living with the Enneagram has confirmed this belief for me. And here's the answer here. So I asked myself, what do I want readers to take away? Do I want them to know about the Enneagram? Or do I want them to know how they can be kinder to one another? It was with this second intention that I wrote this book. I decided to use my experience of the Enneagram as a tool for cultivating kindness rather than as a lesson in psychology. So I wrote this book not as a teacher, but as a person who wants to encourage you to get to know the people in your life better. See life through their eyes, not yours. And that was my intention, that people could come away and go, oh, I never saw someone, and I didn't talk about the whole world. I'm saying start with people you live with, that you work with, the intimates, we're hardest on them. And we decide who they are. And I've had so many stories from people, even one today on a beautiful phone call. These things always touch me a lot, of someone who was in a class years ago and was able to go, oh, that brother I've had difficulty with, I understand now. And it changed everything from then on. And that's what I was hoping with this book, that I really set a kind of a low bar for me to say, it doesn't have to be a great book in the world. I just hope that if one person reads this and they go, oh, I never saw my sister that way, my husband that way. I never saw that person. I never could feel what it might be like to be them. And it shifts everything. So that was really what I was hoping people would take away. And then going back to the design and how to do it, I didn't want people to be caught up in theory or words, because if I started with the head, we would be in the head. What's a 7? What's a 5? What are the core, qualities? And if you start with the heart, you go there, and you don't have to worry about the Enneagram. I really don't care that people study the Enneagram or that they come away knowing their type or anybody's type. What matters to me is they feel something different about people overall. And so far, I guess it's been 3 months since this has been out. That's primarily what I'm hearing from people. So I'm really, really grateful for that.
On that note, I want to invite whoever's on the call, if you feel good about this, I think it would be wonderful to express your feelings, your thoughts, and experiences with Frank's new book, Kindness. I personally think it's a really important thing for there to be an exchange of energy, and I think that creatives, when they have the courage and the follow through to put something out into the world with the best intentions, that we really do help by giving them expression and feedback about that. And it's a beautiful exchange. But I know that this book has touched a lot of people. We've had it for a short time, I guess maybe the 3 months, because we got our delivery right when they became available. And people have really, really resonated. So I appreciate the work that you've done to make that possible. And what strikes me, Frank, is the impact of the book, how it's presented and what it actually contains. It conveys the layering that we all are.
Yeah.
And with that as an understanding or within our perception, it creates the possibility of a connection that wouldn't otherwise be there.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's connection. And, I know that knowing the Enneagram has helped me connect with people in ways I never would have otherwise, whether they know the Enneagram or not. Those of us who do, it makes life so much more playful. Because we just laugh at ourselves a lot. We don't take ourselves seriously. It's a way in. And I've seen, as I've worked with people for 40 years, what you're saying is so true. We just want an authentic connection. We don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
It's hard. And I think that part of it is just opening your heart. And to do that, you're going to have to open your heart to yourself. And so it's layers, as you say, it's layers and layers. But what I love about the responses so far to this book is that people are not talking about their types or anything like that. They just kind of have this feeling of like, oh, thank you for this. And it reminds people about kindness and about their heart, and they already know what to do. I don't have to teach anything. It just is a quickening, a reminder. It activates that part in all of us that says, oh yeah, being kind, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you like to take this opportunity to let people know where they can find the book?
Yes, well, with you. Okay.
Yay.
Pilgrim's Way bookstore. I'm in a funny phase of having printed this myself as a self-publisher. I don't have a distributor. Because of the beautiful color and all that, it's great, but it's very difficult to get on-demand printing that will reproduce this. So in the meantime, I am the distributor. And I have it in bookstores. I'm here in Southern Oregon, so it happens to be in Rebel Heart, for those of you who are here. Of course, Art Presence. It's in Ashland at Bloomsbury Books. Also at Soundpiece. And I even got it in the Barnes & Noble locally here. Those are the only bookstores. You can order online, I think, through you, Cynthia, at Pilgrim's Way.
pilgrimsway.com.
Rebel Heart does online orders as well, and I do. But be patient, because I got a fulfillment room in the part of my house where I am stuffing books and putting on labels and sending those things out. And until I get a better system, that's the only way to get this right now. So I'm trying to really support local independent bookstores, but I'm limited in how far my reach is right now. So it's basically through you if you can do online, through me if I can do online, Rebel Heart is doing online.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And is it too soon to announce something about Gaia TV?
Not yet. No, that's a possibility in the future. Not ready for that yet.
Okay.
But I am doing something tomorrow night. If you
Perfect.
know,
let's hear about it.
Here, Art Presence. Someone who got me started in writing this book, a good friend, Jenna Gordon, from Carmel, transplant here to Jacksonville, and her husband, David, have a self-publishing company. But Jenna looked at my book, the field guide I had from 12 years ago, and said, this should be a book. Well, Jenna does a series called Arts and Letters, and she interviews artists and mostly authors. So tomorrow night is an interview with myself and a neighbor friend, another author who writes fiction. And it's about the writing process. It's called Getting the Words Right. Is that what it's called? It's good. And how to find that, I'll put something on the screen later, but it's Art Presence in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And I'll put something on the screen. Maybe I should do it now because I'll probably forget later.
Maybe just put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. I didn't think about it.
To everyone. Yeah.
All right. Let me get back to you. How do I get out of here? Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. What I would love to do, unless you have something really burning to do first, is to hear your closing poem.
Oh, did you want questions or should I go there?
I would love to hear your poem first, and then we'll invite folks to show us their faces and and if there are any questions.
Okay, let me get that. This hopefully summarizes what I was trying to say, that the real gift in all of this work, I'll call it, Enneagram, personal growth work, therapy, anything that helps us to be better in some way or to approach life from new and better ways, is that we would have a fresh look, like beginner's mind, especially about the people who we see. And I just talked about that. And here's my way to try to put that in a verse, in a poem. And it's called For the First Time Again. Years I have known you, but now I see you for the first time again. I see your strife. I see your strength. I feel your trembling heart. I see your radiant soul. I see myself. I see you whole.
Beautiful.
To see each other for the first time again, where the me meets the we, is where kindness will be for the first time again. So my hope is that we can do that over and over again, that we start fresh with the people we know and say, maybe I could see you with fresh eyes. Maybe I could see you with a more tender heart. Maybe I've been missing something. And I think that's a gift we can give to one another, because it's so easy to just have you decide who someone is by what they've done, and it's done. And what I'm trying to say through this book is maybe you're not done. Look again and see that person's gift and the struggle they have in trying to live in that gift in life. They maybe forgot it, they don't see it, they have distorted it somehow, but there's a gift there, and it's up to you to see if you can bring that forward in that person.
Beautiful. So beautifully said. And what a perfect time on the planet as we're all going through so much transition inside and out, and levels of adaptation to the way we live right now, and what's really coming up is most important right now, to have this as a tool, an accessory to what we're already doing in our lives for ourselves and our relationships. It's just so beautiful, such perfect timing. Yeah. And I don't know if you've noticed the chats, there's lovely, beautiful chats of appreciation and gratitude for you. But I would be willing to unmask everyone. I know that this is kind of old home week with Frank. And, you know, if someone has a burning question or comment, I would invite you to share that with the group. So you may unmask yourselves individually if you so choose.
Oh, Pammy.
I'd like to say something.
Great. Thank you,
Hi.
Pam.
Yeah. Sorry, just a second.
You need to,
I just wanted to share a couple. My husband had the computer going, so sorry, there's some feedback. A couple of really cool experiences. First of all, thank you so much. This was so just beautiful, Frank, you sharing about your book and just how much love and thought went into it.
Wow.
But I had two really beautiful experiences. One with sharing the book with a friend of mine friend of my husband and mine, who isn't much of a self-reflector. And, you know, I sat on the couch one day and just kind of read through the different personalities. I didn't bother with the numbers.
Mhm.
And it, you know, it kind of allowed him to kind of go, I think that's me, or yeah, that's definitely you. And so it was just really cool because he had sort of thanked us for helping him to do more self-reflection. And the other thing I have planned is to do a kind of a cocktail hour with two girlfriends. I sent them both the books, and we're going to just kind of learn more, go in depth about our personalities. And yeah, it's just been a really cool tool to use with.
Great. That's a great way to use it. A lot of people are buying
Just wanted
them
to share.
for friends and book groups and so forth. I think it's a really great thing. Thank you, Pammy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mhm.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
I see some familiar faces out there.
My God, I'm seeing some of the names now, and I have been so moved. I've been hearing from people that I haven't had contact with, some 20, 25 years, some 10 years ago, former clients, students, friends, and it's been great. I mean, it's one of the best parts about doing this is to feel that connection with people and how much our lives have intersected and how much it means to all of us. So thank you all for showing up. Yeah. Mhm.
We have a few more minutes if someone has something burning to share.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, someone needs to unmute there.
Please, let's see if I can do that for you.
There it's me, Frank. It's Doe.
Doe.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. This was done not only with great love, but with reverence. I think we are in a time where there's so much confusion that we need this gentleness, this reverence, and this ability to, you call it kindness. I use the word holiness and wholeness as well.
Yes.
And it helps us to appreciate who we are and who we're with, and that we're alive. And it's always such a pleasure. I'm so anxious to get my copy and to start reading it. But this is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. May I tell them, Joe, that I've known you since I was 12 years old?
I know, sweetheart. I mean, wow, this is a wow. You know, I think we need to just learn to appreciate the gentle and the tenderness of humanity. And you brought it out in all its different forms. It's really powerful. I've been writing notes and just, I can't wait to get my book. Can't wait to get my book.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. You know, this is so illustrative of the quality of connection, just being able to see everyone's face. And I feel the interest and the gratitude for Frank for what he's really put together.
Yes. I was trying to get to chat and I pressed the wrong thing here. I can see a lot of comments. I'm seeing people's names. It's so wonderful. You know, thank you all. Well, what this always affirms for me too is that as a type 1, I felt a deep responsibility to make sure that I did this right and that I honored the Enneagram and that I honored each type and that no one would feel judged or criticized. I mean, you can imagine what I went through. I had to kind of be more loving to myself, but also remember that people know this, that you talk about the holiness, talk about kindness, that it's something we know. We just need a little tap on the heart to awaken that. And so all of you out there, that's really what I'm most happy about. And I hope you'll just continue to spread what you experience through this, because you all have it in your own way. I did it through a book and I used the Enneagram. You do it in your own ways. But it's just to take that sense that we know of our shared humanity, to focus more on how we're alike than how we're different, but appreciate both are true. That our differences do matter, and how we're alike does matter. You know, there was I used a quote of Margaret Mead's in the opening that says, always remember that you are absolutely unique, just like everyone else. And I also have a little poem that says, you could say we are each a piece of work. You could also say we are each a work of art. Both are true. And to me, that's what this is about, that you got to just see all of that is true in yourself and in others. And that just opens so many more possibilities.
So grateful for you, Frank. I really respect and appreciate what you bring into the world. And I'm especially grateful that you mentioned how each person has their own way. And, you know, may we all have some sense of feedback for when we're on the right track or when we're really putting out that love and it's being received. So thank you all for being here tonight. We're so grateful to have your interest and your support for Frank and for Pilgrim's Way. And yeah, I hope to see you all soon. In the meantime, be well. And
Cynthia, I want to thank you again. You know, what a great opportunity to have this time with you. I learned so much and you hit it so clearly. It's like it's being received and the exchange is really important. And thanks for facilitating this. And again, what you and Paul do through Pilgrim's Way, and what you have done for all these years, and to keep an independent bookstore going with such grace and integrity, it's miraculous. And I really thank you for that. And you're one of those places that's a safe harbor for people to come and be and learn. And you provided this for me tonight, and I'm very, very grateful.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I'm so tickled to be part of this, and yeah, really appreciate the opportunity. So much love to you all. Thank you for being here, and be well.